Hey, this is Dr. Chad Kuntz, and just wanted to talk today about why your legs may be cramping and tingling in the middle of the night. Now, there are various causes for something like this. First, I would actually want to rule out that you have any type of venous insufficiency, or would like to rule out any form of cardiovascular impairment. So, usually it's divided into venous or arterial insufficiency. You can have both. More than not, cramping is more likely and associated with a venous insufficiency, where it just means that because a vein, brings blood back to the heart, your body's having a hard time bringing the blood back to the heart, and especially after you lie down after a long day. Since the legs are at least equivalent with the heart, it's easier for the blood to go back to the heart. And oftentimes, because it's difficult, the blood kind of gets stuck in there, and all of a sudden that cramping can come from a venous insufficiency standpoint. Now, however, if your legs are tingling in the middle of the night, it's less likely that it's only due to a venous insufficiency. More than not, too, you can actually have referral of the tingling from the low spine down into the legs. So we'd have to rule out a common form of lumbar radiculopathy, which just means that nerves exiting from out of the lower spine are having a hard time getting all the way down into the feet. Now, in terms of your location of where the cramping is, and whether it's on one leg or both legs, can give us quite a bit of information. For instance, for some people, if they have what is called Foraminal Stenosis, where they have less space in between their lower lumbar spine, those people tend to be affected on both legs. Whereas if you're, let's say you have a bad disc herniation, you might be more likely just to have that impairment on one side. And since that would just be on one side, you might just have the tingling and cramping down that right leg. Now, if it's from the low back, more times than not, I would see that you'd actually have that tingling and cramping possibly down the entire right leg. It could be in the quads, or it could be in the calf. You could also have a radiculopathy from the low back that only shows itself in the calf, because potentially you have enough constriction along the way through your back, through your hamstrings, and through your glutes, to the point that it finally meets a threshold that the tingling and cramping shows up in the calf. Now, also too, you could also have tingling and cramping from a peripheral nerve entrapment that might be in the calf, and the calf is the most common area I would say that people feel like they're cramping. It can also be in the hamstrings, but a peripheral entrapment just means that the nerve at that juncture is having a hard time getting through. So the nerve had no problem coursing through the glutes, the hamstrings, but let's say the superficial peroneal, which is a nerve right around the upper calf, it splits off into two different other nerves. There are certain areas just anatomically that are more at a predisposition to have less space, and therefore if you have a tight muscle, you've been walking all day, you don't have good range of motion, that too can cause cramping. So to me, I personally don't like to mess around if I know that I'm waking up with tingling, more than cramping, I would say. Specifically tingling, if I start to feel that and it's waking me up, that nerve's quite unhappy at this point, and I don't like to mess with nerves because all of a sudden they can cause some weakness down the road and a whole other sort of problems, and they can just be tougher to kind of loosen up compared to just muscles in my professional experience having treated them. So with that being said, if you are cramping, that might be your warning sign that tingling's to come if you don't have that already. Cramping could mean that you could have some nerve problems going on, as well as potentially some venous problems as well. Venous tends to be more on both sides. So I would say you would need a medical examination, a good orthopedic hour-long examination to figure out exactly where that nerve's having its most difficult time kind of coursing through, and then we can kind of sit down and break through the way you're sitting, the way you're walking, maybe what activities or sports you're doing that might be causing that particular muscle to cramp up, maybe even specifically at night. Let me know if that helps, guys. Thank you so much.